for coming. Many of you I recognize, and a lot of you I do not recognize. So I appreciate that you've taken the time out to come. And I feel this is going to be extremely valuable information for all of us. Because, you know, nobody really talks to us about the brain aging. And, you know, we all feel that it's an inevitable part of aging. And in fact, based on the research, it doesn't need to be that way. So what we're going to discuss today are all the different factors that affect our brain. The brain is a very complex organ. It's the one that is the most susceptible to nutrient requirement. So if we end up depriving our bodies of any particular nutrient, whether it's fats, whether it's protein, whether it's you know, even carbohydrates, that will have a negative impact in some form or shape on the brain. So what I'm going to do today is talk about all the different factors that affect our brain. And what are these factors that really encourage the aging process? What can we do to minimize them down, slow them down? And in fact, in some cases, we can also reverse some of the damaging effects on our brain in the process of many bad habits that we might have developed over the years, whether it's smoking or drinking excessive amounts of alcohol, consuming a diet very high in sugar. All these impact the brain in the long term. So let's take a look at some of the causes of brain aging. And these are not in any particular order or any particular importance. This is really what came to mind as I was preparing, you know, to give the presentation today. And what I'd like to do is cover all these different factors and then address supplements, because now they have found through research that there are specific vitamin supplements that can really help in slowing down the aging process. So what we'll do is cover those as well at the end, and then I'll offer it up to questions as well. I think it's the other thing. Yeah. Right. All right, is that better? Yes. Okay, great. Good, so keep your questions in mind and I'll be very happy to address those at the end. All right, so number one, inflammation. Okay, now many of us know inflammation because it triggers pain in the body, but do we know that we can also have inflammation in the brain? And in fact, the latest theories now on ADD in children and in adults is the fact that it is caused by inflammation in the brain. And when we have inflammation in the brain, it interrupts the neurotransmitters from working optimally in the brain. And it can affect memory, it can affect mood, it can affect many different parts of our normal daily activity. So inflammation, so let's say you have tendinitis in your elbow. Well, we never knew that, you know, if you have tendinitis in one part of the body, that can communicate with other cells in the body. But what they have found is, in fact, that when you do have inflammation in a particular part of the body, that it will actually transfer to other parts of the body. So it's very important that when we do have inflammation, that we do whatever it takes to bring down that inflammation. So aging is directly linked to inflammation. The more inflammation we have through our lives, and it could be, you know, abdominal inflammation, it could be something like irritable bowel syndrome, I mean, whatever the inflammation is, very important that we take care of it, because in the long run it will have other impact, you know, on other parts of the body, including the brain, especially the brain. Dehydration. Now, many of you have heard that we need to drink 8 cups of water. I mean, is that what we need to be doing? What they have found, actually, is that the more accurate amount of hydration is really drinking half your body weight in ounces. So let's say you're 150 pounds, so half of that is 75. So 75 ounces of water, okay, is the requirement for that particular person. And that makes much more sense. It doesn't make sense that we all should be drinking the same amount of fluids. Some of you work out, exercise more than others. Some of you may, you know, require much more amounts of hydration than, you know, than others do too. So it's much more accurate to go by the body weight. So the body weight, half your body weight in ounces is what you're looking for in terms of hydration. And the brain is the first organ to be affected when we get dehydrated. So I can't emphasize how critical it is to maintain that hydration. everything functions much more optimally in the brain, and you actually slow down the whole aging of the brain when you are properly hydrated. When I was working in the hospital, we used to have older patients coming in and with a diagnosis of dementia or senility or Alzheimer's, and many of them, they just needed hydration. Once they were given IV fluids of hydration, they were completely back to normal. So the hydration factor is extremely critical. Okay, and it's important to drink, good quality water. Make sure the water is non-chlorinated. Okay, chlorine is a toxin not only to our joints but also to the brain. So it's very important that if you are drinking tap water, that you have a really good filtration system to clear the chlorine out of the water. So that's very important. Okay, elevated blood sugar. Have any of you heard that we now have a type 3 diabetes? Okay, you know about type 1, you know about type 2, but now we have type 3 diabetes. And type 3 diabetes is sugar in the brain. So when we have elevated blood levels of sugar, that goes directly into the brain and will actually damage brain cells. So another reason to really keep our blood sugars at a much healthier level. Okay, the same thing applies if you have hypoglycemia, low blood sugar, where you're not getting enough blood, enough sugar coming into the brain. You also need a certain amount of sugar coming into the brain. So the two extremes, elevated blood sugar, low blood sugar, both of those are equally damaging on the health of our brain. Very important to maintain really healthy blood sugar levels. Okay, and for most of us, I usually recommend keeping your blood sugar levels not higher than 90 on a fasting blood sugar. So to really keep the brain at its best, you want to stay around 90. I mean, a little bit less than that, anywhere from 80 to 90 is fine, but try not to go from 90 to 100 and above. Okay, so maintaining a lower level is much healthier. Okay, stress. I mean, we all know that stress is unhealthy, but do we know that it actually kills brain cells? When we get really stressed out, what happens is you get elevated levels of cortisol, which is the stress hormone that's released from the adrenal glands, and that starts to destroy brain cells. So it's very important, another reason in today's life for all of us to really find ways to de-stress. And some of you may find it through a hobby, some of you may find it through meditation, through yoga, having wonderful walks outside, spending time alone, where you're not interrupted with friends and family, pulling you in all different directions. So it's very important to make sure that you find a really healthy way to de-stress on a daily basis. This is not just once a week, this is daily. We're talking about daily. Okay, hormonal depletion. I hear this all the time with my female patients, when they go through menopause. Oh my gosh, my brain doesn't think anymore. I've lost my memory. I walk into a room and I can't remember where I put my keys. So hormonal depletion certainly affects aging in our bodies. And there are ways that you can, maintain a healthy hormone balance, both through nutrition but also through nutritional supplements that are safe. So quite often if you don't want to take either bioidentical hormones or hormone replacement therapy, there's much healthier ways to actually help with hormonal depletion as we age. But that's a very important aspect to aging. And hormones play a number of different critical roles in the body. I mean, they really maintain our bodies, helping them to slow down from aging. But the hormones also really help the brain in terms of memory, also in terms of clarity, focusing. So hormones are very critical for that as well, too.